So in this segment we are going to start looking at operating systems. Operating systems are something we're all familiar with. Right from our early classes we're taught that a computer is made up of hardware and software. Hardware being the devices, the physical tangible elements, and software being the programs. Within the programs or the software, again we are taught that there are two broad categories: system software or operating systems and application software. So application software are our MS Word, Excel, PowerPoint, basically anything that helps us, the users, to perform a task of a specific nature. On the other hand, we have system software or operating systems which exist to guide the computer to help us perform our tasks. So this much we already know. So we are now going to look at operating systems in a little more detail. We're going to see why we need operating systems, what kind of functions they perform, and we're going to look at some of those functions in depth in this video and throughout this course. So before we proceed, one point which we should all remember at all times throughout this course is that operating system is also a software. It is also a program. It is a bunch of lines of code. It contains functions, commands, like any of the functions we write in our programs. So with that clarity in mind, let's proceed. So in this segment and in the next few segments, we're going to be looking at an introduction. Some of the topics we'll cover are definition of an operating system, main functions, user mode, kernel, and booting. So for all the images and the content in these slides, the Silberschatz textbook has been used as reference. So with that out of the way, let's begin. We'll begin by getting a little more formal understanding of what an operating system is. So there is no one hard and fast definition of an operating system. This is what the textbook itself says. So depending upon the point of view, depending upon the context, there are multiple ways in which you can define an operating system. So if you look at it from the computer or the CPU's perspective, the operating system is doing a specific task. If you look at it from the user's perspective, the operating system is doing something else. So there is no one size fits all definition, but what is generally accepted as a standard way of defining the OS is the OS acts as an interface between the user and the hardware. So we know that we users generally prefer to instruct the computer in terms of English or at the most in terms of programming languages, say C or Python or whatever. We know that the computer only comprehends binary zeros and ones. So we also know that when I speak to the computer using Python or C or Java, that is translated to a sequence of zeros and ones which the computer comprehends, and then the computer performs whatever I am asking it to do. So we know this internal translation is happening, but who is guiding this translation? Who is instructing the CPU to do this? Who is telling the CPU what to do? Is the OS. So in that sense, the OS acts as an interface between the user and the hardware. So if you look at the diagram here, we have the user. The user interacts with the system by means of application programs. Application programs or application software, as we know, is any software which helps you perform a specific task. It can be your browser, your text editor, your compilers, where you write your code and compile them. It can be anything which helps you perform a specific task. So when you want to do a task of a certain nature, what you will do on your system is you open the corresponding application. You want to visit a website, you'll open your browser. You want to type some code, you will open your text editor or your integrated development environment. So when you have a specific task, you open an application program corresponding to that task and you start working on it. And then on the other hand, we have computer hardware, which is your CPU, your memory, your input-output devices, etc. So you give your input through the application program to an input device. The output device is going to send that output back to the application program, and the application program is displaying it to you. So there is some communication happening. Sometimes you might have to store some data, memory. You might have to perform computations, CPU. So there is, you can see in all these cases, some sort of communication happening between the application programs or you, the end user, and the other side, the hardware side. So that communication is facilitated by the operating system. So when you learn computer architecture, you will learn that this communication happens through the CPU. You'll learn about buses and all that, which is true. But the CPU again is hardware, right? It's a device, it's a non-living entity. So there has to be something which is guiding the CPU or instructing the CPU to do things, and that is the OS. So in that sense, the OS is an interface between the user and the hardware.